Death Adder's a little bit of a hike. I don't think anyone's been up there, so I got all hooked up in the vines. As you can see, Crofty's just down there doing some on-the-fly adjustments. What adjustments?
My high dollar suspension tuning device.
Yeah, we've got some Death Adder. This clip is from my last ride on the DRZ with Crofty on the 500 chasing me down through the trees here. We originally got the bikes. He actually had a KLR first. I got the DRZ because we planned on getting into adventure riding, but as you can see by our style of riding here, sort of morphed more from an adventure into enduro style riding, and the DRZ just it's a bit too heavy. Well, not so much for tracks like this. It's great for tracks like this, but once you start to get out into Glasshouse and you've got more climbs and that sort of thing, you just want something a little bit lighter to pick up when you need to put a foot down, or you can't you can't make a climb, but you need a few goes at it. You just need that lighter weight. So yeah, realised it was time to move on and upgrade to something else. So I think it was 2 or 3 days after this little spin through the trees, decided to put the bike on Marketplace. Actually, no, I had it on the Marketplace for about a week before that, and then time to hit that sell button.
Yeah, I'm probably flat out.
And that's it. We're done. Thank you, sir. Cheers, back.
Look at the new 350 in the stable.
Hey boys, new bike. Just fucking around a little bit with the suspension, winding up the shock, doing all that crazy shit. But
yeah, we had to set the rider. Static sag was pretty fucked, so we had to do a little adjustment down here.
This dude had his granddad riding it.
Yeah, I don't know if fucking set for a fucking 30-kilo 12-year-old girl or some shit, which is pretty close to shame. But
no, about 35 kilo.
Man's ride here, so we've had some adjustments down here. Wound that bad boy down a bit. Get the static height just right. She was what, 30 mil out.
And then we might even get out to suss out this day. See you, buddy.
Did a bit of adjustments and tuning here. Chain was a bit out. Gave it the adjustment. Shock sag. Handlebars. What else did we do? We gave the brake a bit of a little bit more play in the brake there. I adjusted the idle up. Sounds fuckloads better. Suspension set up.
And just rolled the handlebars back a little bit.
Bit of handlebar
lower the
adjustment.
levers just for personal comfort.
Just way back a bit. So, all right. Let's take the little pumpkin out for a run. We're gonna
Bring that camera right in.
We're gonna find out
what the wild one does.
Wild means.
I'm starting there.
I have the same button. It's right here. So you get the 350, the well-known War Pumpkin 500.
Quick stop for some air and some petrol. All right, here we are, same as last week, except boom, the new 350. Plan for me is take it nice and cruisy, just get used to the bike first. Crash. Don't want to rape the fucking thing on its very first go. So the idea of this video was to basically, number one, document that, hey, I sold the DRZ and upgraded to a KTM 350exc-f. I've put this video up in a bit of a side-by-side comparison of the two bikes going up this track, just to say my first thoughts on because this was the first time I actually had this bike in the dirt, and yeah, absolutely love the feeling. I just wanted to say a few little things if you're thinking about getting a bike, because this is where I was like 12 months ago just a little over 12 months ago. Crofty had a KLR 650 and I had the DRZ, and our plan was to sort of get right into like adventure riding. Not that we really knew too much about riding in the dirt, or even Crofty had a lot of experience riding on the road, and I've ridden a few road bikes and that sort of thing in my time as well. But the reason, we got these bikes is we wanted to get into adventure riding, explore Australia and that sort of thing. And very quickly, as soon as we started riding, we kind of like found more and more trails that we wanted to explore, and then finding those trails meant that we came across more and more obstacles, and then we just found that, hey, we wanted to try and get over the obstacles and try and find out where the tracks went. One of his things was, hey, I wonder where that goes, and I'd always be like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Kind of turned it into our like running joke of riding. Every time we'd go out, it'd be like, we keep on pushing it and trying to find another track until we couldn't actually get our bikes up there. He obviously got his got rid of his KLR and then got the 500, amped up his riding, and I was like, oh well, the DRZ's not really a KLR. It's not that hard to ride. Until you see me on this track here, and immediately my thoughts going through my head at this point is, wow, why didn't I have this? Why did I ever have the DRZ? Just the lightness and nimbleness. So if you're thinking about getting, this is part 2 of like why I want to create this video, if you're actually thinking about getting a bike, really, I know this is kind of, if you look everywhere, everybody's going to say it too, but really have a think about the sort of riding you will actually be doing. If you're not really sure, talk to some people. Don't go riding by yourself. Ask them what they're riding and what sort of tracks that they're riding on, and actually get a feel for that. That way you'll get a bike that is actually going to suit your needs better. So the DRZ's great. The DRZ's actually great for this kind of a track, but more of the like glasshouse style of riding that we do, you definitely want a more light, nimble and maneuverable bike for that tighter single track and that kind of thing. It's just really going to add to your experience. Next big thing I will say is definitely play with the suspension. Have a bit of a mess around with the clickers and that sort of thing. And if you're not sure, definitely talk to somebody who has that knowledge and that can have a little bit of a play around. Something that I haven't actually done yet is take the bike to a suspension shop and get them to tell them what sort of riding I've got, maybe show them a video or something like this, and get them to work on my suspension. Suspension is everything. Obviously the way the bike in situations like this, but like it doesn't matter what sort of a bike. Setting the static sag and the rider sag and having the compression rebound right is so important. So for the fee of whatever it's going to be, I haven't actually done it yet, but I really want to get that done. It makes such a massive difference. Just setting the static sag and rider sag and playing with the clickers, all the difference in the world. But yes, obviously check the chain adjustments, and as well, the chain on this bike was way too tight and it's definitely going to start messing with the motor. I obviously hadn't been ridden too much with it like that, but that is something that you definitely don't want to have happen as well. Let's have, a little bit rocky here. I still need to have a bit more of a play around. The reason I'm actually going quite carefully through there is I'm not 100% happy with the front end. It is a little bit too bouncy. You can't really see it in the frame there, but it's not too hard, it's not too soft. It seems like it's deflecting a little bit more. So that's like, more learning that I need to do around suspension, but I just wanted to throw my thoughts out there in case you're thinking about getting a bike and you're wondering about whether or not you can play with the suspension. My advice to you there is definitely if you're not sure, look in the manual, and if the manual on YouTube doesn't answer it, definitely go and speak to somebody. It is so worthwhile. I've kind of pushed it to the limits of my knowledge, and with Crofty's help, of course. I'm way too scared to do that sort of stuff. But if you're kind of thinking, hey, I don't know if this is quite right, or if you're thinking that your riding's not quite matching it, test it out. trails like this that we're on here, hit a few, you know, smaller jumps, test out the suspension, bounce through a few rocks, get an idea of how deflection and that sort of thing feels on the bike, see how the shock's setting, that sort of thing. And shortly we'll actually aim to hit a bit of single trail, a few climbs, a few descents, like nothing too crazy, but just get a feel for how we've actually set the bike up, what the actual bike is, how the differences do compare, that sort of thing. So if you're somebody that's just buying a bike or looking at getting a bike, you have a bit of an idea, as well as, for myself, just so that I can sort of document the process a little bit. Both myself and Crofty are black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a lot of striking and grappling experience. Especially myself, I've actually coached Jiu-Jitsu for at least 5 years now. So I've got a really good idea on, well, both of us I should say, have got a really good idea on learning and teaching and actually understanding different martial arts and learning and that sort of thing. Compare that to bikes, yeah, not so much. Crofty a bit with road bikes, myself very minimal. But use the knowledge of how to learn and how to apply that into different things. You can see there I'm speeding up and slowing down and getting a test of the suspension and that sort of thing. Just trying to get like a bit of a feel for how the bike works. This ground here is like a bit loamier and a bit, you get a bit more traction. The bike actually came with actually brand new rear tyre. Dunlop Sport something, I'm not really sure. I actually haven't seen that sort of tyre before, but the hookup on it is fantastic. Like, it's getting tons of traction there. You can see I'm not even really winding on the throttle, and it's just kicking up rocks and dirt. There you go, Crofty. Test out your roost plate and your new GoPro, hey, mate. But yeah, so you can get a bit of an idea of, I'm just trying to get a bit of an idea of, you know, the bounce over jumps and that sort of thing, and how the bike feels in the corners, how the responsiveness of the power is. But one thing I will say is, when you do buy a new bike, definitely go over it, test out the bolts, the nuts, the steering, see how the play's sitting, that sort of thing. Compare that to how it's supposed to be in the manual, just so like what you saw happen there, a bit of a jump, that sort of thing. You don't, when things go a little bit sideways, bikes are actually made, especially like, as I said before, have the right bike for the right conditions. They're actually made for this type of riding, these sort of bikes. This is well within their capability. So you can definitely push them, and you can definitely land a bit out of spaces and a bit out of sorts, and they will definitely recover for you. But what you don't want to be thinking is, hang on, is it are the bolts tightened? Is the suspension set right? Well, you just want to have that little bit of time, take a couple of hours and have a bit of a play around, make sure the nuts and bolts are tight, make sure the chains are at the right tension, make sure there's plenty of the correct tyre pressures in the tyres and there's wear on the tyres, those kinds of little things. It's just going to add to that peace of mind and that confidence. It's just going to give you that little bit of bit of an edge. And it's also going to make you feel familiar with your bike. It'll feel like you actually know your machine. Like, it's an investment. You do put you're putting your money where your mouth is, and you're getting a machine that you intend to put hours in on. So make sure you're comfortable with that. That way, when you get out on the trail, you can think about riding, you can think about your mates, you can think about how good a damn day it is. So, yeah. Tighter, rockier, single trailish kind of stuff here that we're going to get now. What I wanted to have a quick mention about, and please bear in mind I'm a real beginner at this kind of thing, but I feel like my thoughts on this is important. Your rear brake. So when you're going down hills like we're starting to do here now, if you need to be able to access your rear brake. Your rear brake acts as kind of like a stability, like it kind of helps the bike stay upright. You don't want to you definitely do want to use your front brake, but not without any rear brake. Obviously we're on 4-stroke, so we can sort of downshift and use the engine braking as a bit of a cheat in a way. But what I'm not really talking about that. I want to talk about where the lever is set up, because we've been setting this bike up. In this situation here, obviously that's a little bit of a climb, but in this next section, it's a bit of a descent. I suppose the GoPro doesn't really show the speed that I'm coming down, and as a beginner, it's not that fast anyway. But it's faster than I really was probably comfortable with. Not so much that that I was like, all over the shop, but the problem was when I sat my butt back towards the back of the seat, I should say, almost on the rear fender, I felt like I couldn't get the front brake. The rear brake. When we're braking, we really want our body weight over the rear fender. So just as a bit of an idea, if you're setting up your bike, you really want to be able to sit your butt right down the back of the seat, so that your butt is touching the back of the seat and even the rear fender, if anything, and have your boots on. You want to be able to engage the rear brake. If you can't, that rear brake is basically going to be useless to you. You need to be able to engage that brake while your body weight is right down the back of the bike. Engaging the rear brake while your body weight is up the front of the bike is going to be absolutely, completely useless for you. So in this case here, I almost relied on the front brake and engine braking. There's Crofty visiting the trees for a little bit. I think he saw a mate up there. But I've obviously scooted off down there just because I could see that there was a line, and I've just shot off down the track. Not if I had rear brake, I would have probably taken that a little bit slower. Well, especially being on my first ride on this bike. So that's just a little something that I would like to point out to you. Even if you're not wanting to get on the bike to test it, if you look at your right foot peg and put a ruler across the pegs, your rear brake should actually be level with, or in my preference, to be a little bit higher than that parallel point of your rear brake. Just a handy little tip, you definitely need to be able to use your rear brake. You are going to get most of your braking from the front brakes, but that rear brake is super important to stabilize the bike, super important for that stability when we're going downhill. So definitely mess around with the rear brake, get that comfortable, get used to the feeling of where lockup is, and putting your braking with your weight back versus braking with your weight forward. It's just going to make your downhill experience so much more fun. I feel like I really know enough about setting up the rear gear lever height to comment massively on. I have changed mine a little bit. What I will say is, personally, I like to be able to access the gear lever with my boots on when I'm standing and sitting. I think I have mine set a little bit low, so I might rise it up a little bit so that I can, see how that feels. But for now, my gear lever is literally level with the pegs of my left boot. A little pro tip I will throw in here, just in case, especially see here, we're actually doing a bit of a climb here. This actually doesn't look very steep. It is reasonably steep, but there is plenty of traction, so perfect for testing out the feel of the new bike. What I will say is the bars. So it's quite easy to adjust your bars a little bit forward and a little bit back. If your bars are really forward, you'll get better performance, you'll get better turning, but it might make the bike feel a bit twitchy at higher speeds. So if the bike doesn't feel quite as stable, you can just undo the bolts where your bars are, and just I'm not saying don't make a drastic change, but just bring the handlebars back a little bit. What you'll need to do when you do that though is you might need to drop the brake and the clutch lever down just slightly so that you can access them while you're standing up as well as while you're sitting down. I do like to be able to have one finger and a finger on each side able to access the brake and the clutch at both sides, and you should be able to get that finger to the brake or the clutch at any time so that you can modulate the clutch or the brake according to your circumstances. That's just what I like to do and what I find feels comfortable for me while I'm out on the trails. But yeah, if you have any questions on that, definitely shoot us a message, and so hopefully I can help you out. But yeah, if you're wondering what like small adjustments you should do, those ones.
Fucking so much more fun. So much.
See how much faster you're riding just going downhill through that rocky shit, because you know the suspension will take it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going too fast, so I'm like, yeah, not too fast.